What's up everybody, as always I hope you're having a fantastic day. Sorry I haven't posted last week, I was feeling super sick, but you know what else is pretty sick? iPhones. And that's what we're talking about today. I've had people message me on Instagram asking me if they should pick up one of the 14 lineups or the 13 lineup. And of course my first instinct was to say the 13 lineup is probably worth it now since it's on sale, but after doing more research I found that the answer is actually a bit more complex than that, so I decided to make a full video on the subject. And after doing more research, again, I found that there are three main categories of people who buy their new phones. You have people that buy the newest and greatest. Of course, these people probably aren't here watching this video. And then at the far end of the spectrum, you have people that will only upgrade their phone once it is completely dead. So they use that thing until it's dead, nothing works on it anymore, it doesn't turn on, there's no updates possible, stuff like that. It's just completely dead. And then somewhere in the middle you have people like me that'll upgrade every now and then. Maybe you upgrade whenever there's a cool new feature, or maybe whenever your carrier's deal is done. So when you have a new contract, you just upgrade your phone then. In my case, like I said, I upgrade every now and then. Last time I upgraded was a mix of my carrier's deal was done, and also I found that the new 13 Pro was really a great phone. I used to have an XS, so it was getting a bit old, the design was getting a bit old, it was starting to feel a bit wonky as well, so I decided to upgrade. I have thought of upgrading to the 14 Pro, however I haven't done that. I think that the main reason why I wanted to upgrade was just so I can make content on it, and it's not a cheap phone, so I decided to put my money elsewhere. And of course, if we're talking about is it worth it, which one should you buy, we're gonna have to consider pricing. And Apple knows that if you're buying an iPhone, you're either stuck into their ecosystem or you're a fanboy, so they don't care about pricing at all. I thought the whole 13 lineup was going to be at a huge sale, however, that's not exactly the case. Let's start with the 14 models, since they're the ones that are out right now, the latest, greatest. So you have the iPhone 14 at $799, the 14 Plus at $899, and if you want a regular iPhone, so not a Pro, but a larger size, the 14 Plus is the only model available currently. There's no equivalent in the 13 lineup. You then have the Pro at $999 and the Pro Max at $1099. So it's exactly the same pricing as when the 13 lineup came out. However, ever since, some of the prices have dropped. For example, you can get the 13 mini now at $599, which I think, by the way, is the iPhone that's the most worth it at the moment. It's a huge deal. It's not too expensive and you get a really good phone. We'll talk a bit later about the differences between all of these phones. Then you have the 13, which is at $100 less at $699. And then you have the 13 Pro, which some people have told me they've seen it on sale. I've had screenshots of it being at like $799, I think, on Amazon. If I find a link to that, I'll leave it in the description. If I don't, it's because the deal is not there anymore. However, I'll be posting this video during Black Friday time-ish, so look out for deals. There might be deals out there. When I did my own research, I haven't found a deal anywhere, even if I looked at carriers and stuff. However, like you probably know, when there's back to school and stuff like that, they always give out big discounts, so it might be worth checking out. But for this video, we're gonna assume that it's the same price as the 14 Pro currently, which might tell you a bit of where I stand on this. And obviously, you can look around for deals on things like eBay, Kijiji, stuff like that, auction websites, but do be careful. If you find a deal that's too good to be true, it probably is. You don't want to be getting scammed. It's not going to be worth it, obviously, so do be careful and look at the reviews, do your research and stuff like that. So first we have to talk about the basic models of the 13 and the 14. So the 13 mini, 13, the 14 and the 14 Plus. Obviously, well, if you're looking at the mini or the Plus, there's no real other option, so they are both worth it in my opinion. So as far as the internals, they're all pretty much the same. They all have the A15 Bionic chip, which is a fantastic chip. The battery will last you a really long time. The 14 does have a bit longer lasting battery. It's actually a huge battery, but like that's not going to be making that big of a difference in your day-to-day life. You're probably going to plug your phone when you go to bed. So having a phone that lasts you for like more than a day is probably not that useful. And then the 14 does have a new GPU, which might be making a tiny difference. For most people, that's not going to be making a difference at all. I don't think even experts are going to see the difference unless they're running benchmarks, which I don't see why you would do on an iPhone. And that's got nothing to do with future proofing either. The chip has to do with that more, which they will have the same chip, so no real difference there either. And then when it comes to the Pro models is where it gets a bit more complicated. Like I said, I don't know exactly the price of the 13 Pro. I'm sure you can get deals on it at $799, but I haven't found that deal, well, so far. So the 14 Pro is actually a really amazing phone. You know, we have a lot of differences from the 13 Pro. The first and biggest one that I think we're going to be using is the camera. It is a fantastic camera. It's the first time you have a jump in megapixels, which means you'll be able to zoom into your photos more. They'll keep that resolution. You're going to have great pictures. And then same thing, staying in the camera, you have body stabilization for videos and stuff like that. So if you're filming a video, your kids running around, you're following them and stuff, the video is not going to be super shaky, which is really nice. That's the main reason why I thought of upgrading. However, like I said, I haven't. And then you do have a brighter screen at 2000 nits. Even the 13 Pro, the brightness is really good, but what that range of nits does is that if you're standing outside with straight daylight, you're going to be perfectly fine. You're not going to have to go into shade to look at your phone. And I would say that both of the models are pretty good in that range. However, the 14 Pro is definitely better. It also gets a new chip. However, I don't think that chip is going to be making a big difference. When you look at the specs and stuff, it's really similar to the 13 Pro chip. So I don't think when we're talking about future proofing, that chip is going to be making a huge difference. But talking about future proofing, of course, we have to think about the design. For example, like I said in the beginning, one of the reasons why I switched to the 13 Pro when I had my XS was the design. It was starting to look a bit old, you know, it was still rounded edges. It had a gigantic notch, which the 13 Pro has a much smaller one. And then the 14 Pro, well, the design changed again, and you have the dynamic island, which I think will be there to stay, which means the 13 Pro is going to start to look old at some point. There's also, you know, a sense of novelty with having this new island, and apps are starting to use it more and more, so it is a cool feature to think about. And some other cool things to think about are things like crash detection, which might, you know, save your life if you're into a car accident. However, do keep in mind, if you're going a lot on roller coasters and stuff, there's been a lot of stories in the news of the phone picking up a car crash when in fact we're just on a roller coaster. So it's not the perfect tech, but it is getting there. And then you also have SOS emergency satellite, which allows you, if let's say you're lost in the woods or something, your phone will tell you where to point your phone at, and it will help you find a satellite to connect to so you can get emergency services to you. So if you're someone that does a lot of camping and stuff like that, this is definitely a service to keep in mind. They will be charging subscription fee apparently in the future, but it might still be worth it for you. And the 14 Pro and Pro Max also have always on display, which makes it, well, you know, it's always on. And surprisingly, it doesn't impact the battery too much because of their technology, because it dims the whole screen. If you've seen it in person, it's actually pretty cool. It does a great job at it. You don't lose too many of the skin tones and stuff like that, so it's pretty impressive. Some people love that, some people hate that. I know I'm not personally a big fan of always on display. I find that I know I would always look at it if it was always on, and that's what a lot of creators out there have been saying as well. They feel like they always have notifications, they always look. Something to keep in mind, if you're into that, of course, it's a cool feature, and you can always turn it off and on, so you know, it's not going to be a deal breaker, I believe. So overall, what do I think? Which one should you buy? So I think that the absolute winner of this whole category would be the 13 mini at $599. It's just a fantastic deal, and it's definitely worth it. As for future proofing, you're going to be having this phone for a really long time. It's pretty much the same as all the other phones. And then I think the 13 is worth it more than the 14. However, if you go into the 14 Plus, of course, it is the only Plus model that's not a Pro, so it makes perfect sense to buy that one. And then in the Pros, I would say 14 Pro all the way, and the 14 Pro Max, unless you find a solid deal on the 13 Pro, because I think it's still a really solid phone. And if of course you're not going to be using most of those Pro features like the camera and stuff, I think that just avoiding the Pro altogether is probably worth it. Just go with the regular models. Obviously, this phone, the 13 Pro, is part of my everyday carry. It's a tech essential for me. If you want to see my other tech essentials, go check out this video I made on the subject. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day.